Hello, fellow gamers. Welcome once again to Gaming Shelf Help. I'm Brad Davies.
I'm Drew Kochi.
And I'm Sarah Babe.
And today we are here to talk about Wildsea.
It's a wild sea as opposed to a tame sea, which would just be SeaWorld. What? Don't give me that look.
Well, Wildsea is a game made by MythWorks. It is written by Felix Isaacs, as well as a host of other artists and editors and such like that. But he's kind of the main writer for the book. It is an endless treetop sea. It is an adventure game set in a verdant world. Kind of the quick note of it is, long ago, the world exploded in growth of trees and shrubbery and basically plants. And over the course of like one day, the entire world turned into a giant forest, and now people live in essentially the treetops. That is their new world. I've heard it described as post-apocalyptic, but honestly, the world had so thoroughly been destroyed by this explosive growth of trees that it's almost a completely new world in and of itself. It's kind of the wild, weird, interesting world that it is now.
This gives me strong Skies of Arcadia vibe.
Yeah. Definitely has. It's Skies of Arcadia. It's very nautical themed as well, except instead of sailing on the seas, you're sailing on the waves of tree branches and leaves and stuff.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got from it, was like a sea exploration or space exploration, but instead you're exploring the tops of the trees as your ocean, or as your sea of wildness.
That's interesting.
It was originally funded in 2020 for $134,840. The books were finalized and released and out to people in 2022. We had backed it originally because the artwork just sold me. To give you kind of a quick overview or a summation of what the cover is these mantis-like creatures with forearms wielding dual kopeshes jumping onto a ship from the waves of leaves out on the bow, and it's almost watercolory, but it's this explosion of color, and it just grabbed me. And it's the more I read about it, I'm like, oh, this is really, really good. So we ended up picking it up, and it's ever since it's been kind of that sleeper hit that I'm like, I tell people about it, and they're like, ooh, that sounds good. And like, it's a really cool book to read, and beautiful artwork to it.
The artwork is very whimsical, but serious at the same time.
Yeah, it's almost like an animated show, or it's a little bit cel shaded feeling, but not quite. I would say maybe modern anime.
Yeah, the art and the layout reminded me a lot of Star Wars Saga Edition.
Ooh, there you go.
It's that same like horizontal layout book as opposed to vertical, and it had that similar, not cartoon, but that cel shading animation style for a lot of the artwork. Yeah,
it's definitely not anime, but it has that. It's almost like the Dragon Prince type animation to it. It draws you in with that, and then it is like, oh, and the more you read about it, you're like, oh, this world is interesting.
Don't mind me over here just reliving my Star Wars Saga trauma. Drew.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Killed my Ewok.
Do it again, too.
With Force lightning.
And it was actually so popular that there was an expansion that came out called Storm and Root, which was funded May 11th, 2023, for $137,000, a little over that. It won an Emmy for Best Writing in 2023 as well, too. So this is an Emmy award-winning book and game right here.
The expansion did, or the main book?
The main book did.
The main book. Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
For those who don't know, the Emmys is the awards that they give out at Gen Con for some of the best games that are currently out in the market, and there's a whole slew of categories, and it's voted on by fans and people who have read these books. So it's not like given by a panel or anything like that. A panel does kind of pick the best out of all these submissions and then put those out there, and then they do a ranked choice vote for what people think. So this was picked by the community as some of the best writing in 2023. It's available at www.myth.works or DriveThruRPG. There's a couple books available. There's the Wildsea, which is the core book. The Wildsea Storm and Root, which is expansion for what we'll get into more, but going into the air or down into the under eaves, they call it, which is the roots of the trees, these giant trees. There's also the Wildsea ship gardens, which kind of is an expansion for rules to have gardens on your ship. There's also one-armed scissor scenario and the red hand scenario. So they have actual written scenarios for you to pick up and play right off the bat. So if you have that worry that you're like, oh, I don't know how to run this game, I don't know what to do, those are right there for you. You can pick them up, grab it, play it, test it out, and see what you think.
Yeah, and I think the expansion is a clever way of doing an expansion, right? If your main setting is the canopy, if you will, of the world, then you expand above and below, right? So you've got the sea and the roots. So you're now dealing with above the treetops and then the undergrowth and surface layer.
As above, so below.
And it was also hinted in the main book as well too. Like, hey, there are people there, you can go there, but it's tricky. And then basically the next expansion was like, okay, you wanted to go there, here you go. I guess maybe we should dive a little into the world, or do you want to do mechanics first?
Go into the setting in the world.
So the setting, like I said, is a post-apocalyptic, or really pre-V, I believe is what they call it, which is V is for the verdant. People are now eking out this survival in the trees. These trees are now hundreds and hundreds of feet tall, almost up to a mile tall. Everything is just overgrown. And think of maybe the best way to think about it is like, you know, those old documentaries of people going into the jungle treetops in the rainforest and doing experiments there and stuff like that and living in those trees. That's kind of this vibe it's giving. There is really no land other than the tops of the tallest mountains that exists. There is maybe some old flotsam that floats up from the bottoms of the trees and the depths of the trees that is, oh, this is a giant chunk of rock that happened to get pulled up here. Mm-hmm. And it is there for a while, but at some point the trees are going to move and groan and crush that down back into itself, because the trees aren't just done. They're living trees. They still keep growing and moving and changing and shifting and shaping. And the whole thing that drives all that is called crezerin, which is essentially this acidic sap that creates explosive growth and is also acidic and will also kind of poison you a bit.
Yeah, it can be lethal depending on how much you consume of it.
Mm-hmm. And on top of it, now to navigate these large trees, everybody floats around on boats, which aren't necessarily boats or ships. They're literally chainsaw ships that cut and break and thrash through the waves. You can also have stuff that would be like grappling hooks thrown forward, or maybe a walking gecko style boat, but a majority of them have some sort of saw that the teeth grind through and grab the next branch and rip and pull and tear it through the tops of the trees.
Oh, you know, I never quite understood that until you just explained it right now. Like, I understood there was a chainsaw on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, but how does the ship stay up?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's on the very top and being pulled along by the chainsaw, almost like a conveyor belt.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. It's breaking and crushing and thrashing, but the tops of the trees grow back because of this crezerin. And that's why it's called the thrash. It's the tops of the trees that blow and wave and move. Explosive growth happens there. And then underneath it goes down in layers, like you would go down into the depths of the ocean.
One thing to keep in mind is it's not just trees. It is also vegetation. So you're dealing with vines. You're dealing with buckthorn. Mm-hmm. God, I hate buckthorn.
And also not only the flora, but the fauna.
Yes.
So all of the animals in this are weird mashups of all the animals you can think of. Like, there's things that have developed to live amongst the tops of the trees. One great example is the pinwolves, which are basically, think of the tall fox. I can't remember what they're called, like the savanna fox.
Yeah.
With their long legs, but the long legs end in needle sharp legs of like a spider, and they have this weird elongated form to them, and they can move through the tops of the trees.
There's also the hawk wolf, which I would personally like a hawk wolf because it looks like a
hawk wolf.
Hawk wolf, yeah. It's basically a amalgamation of a wolf and what looks like a red-tailed hawk. It'd be like, screw you!
There's also weird.
Owski.
There's also
Sorry, I'm done.
There's also a lot of weird plant animal hybrid things. There's a weird octopus, but it's a plant as well too. And of course, these grow in all various different sizes. There's the small ones all the way down to giant, huge creatures called leviathans that live deep inside the trees and the forest, or the trees and the under eaves is what they call it. Basically, as you go down deeper into the down the trees, it becomes harder and harder to survive, and it is like basically like going down in the depths. At some point, it will drive you mad. Yeah, it'll drive you mad. It will crush you. The lowest level, which is called the under eaves, and the main book is literally like, you don't go there. If you go there, you're lost. And the page even has this like swirling text and dark black boxes, and it's made to feel this ethereal world. And that's kind of where we get back to the expansion, where it's like, okay, well, if you want to go there, here's how you do it. And they basically made submarine boats essentially that pull themselves down through the woods.
And humans aren't the only things that live in the Wildsea world.
The different, what most people would think of class and race, I believe they're called origins for the racial options. And then the crew, I forget what it's called, position or something. Post, thank you, for your class. Which is, as Brad had said earlier, it definitely gives off those nautical ship vibes, right? You've got spotters and gunmen and things like that.
It also gave me a Deadlands Hell on Earth vibe.
Okay.
Because the titles were pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. But I'll let you continue, sorry.
No, I was going to say I like the intro to the book. Kind of, it explains what the world is, and it kind of gives you that first chapter gives you everything you need to know whether you want to play this or not. Because it goes into how the world works, how the game works, and what it means to be in this world, which I think is a good design choice to let people get into it or not.
I'm also a big fan of the story of the world that helps with the world building, and the way the book is formatted. To the left of certain pages, you have little stories that tell. And I can't tell. I couldn't tell if they were all connected because I wasn't paying that much attention when I was reading them. And there's like a couple pages in between the story, so I was like, I wasn't making a connection. But they're great.
They're told in world to give you that flavor of the world, and then on the far right is usually a play example as well. And to kind of go back to what Drew had said with the bloodlines and what Sarah had said, as well as for the people that you can play. Humans are the Ardents here, which are basically like, sure, you're human, but you've adapted somehow to live in this world. You can stand a little bit of the Krezeran. You are hardier than a normal human. So you've kind of, I guess, maybe mutated, uplifted, something like that. And then from there, it just gets wilder and weirder, because there's the Ectus, who are the cactus folk.
Oh, that's so cool.
You are literally a living cactus. Your sensory organs, like your eyes, are basically flowers, and your ears are flowers, and they could be in a weird place on your head. There are also the Gao, who are the mushroom people.
They're so cute.
You're essentially grown in a mushroom collective.
Unless you have what's the phobia of the
trypophobia?
Yeah, that's it. With the holes and stuff.
Yeah. I don't. No, it's not as awful. It doesn't, because I have a little trypophobia, and it doesn't trigger mine. Like, it makes me a little uncomfortable because I don't know which circle to focus on. But
and there's also stuff like the Ironbound, which are essentially, for all those people who are Eberron fans, you are a spirit bound into the wreckage.
God, I love Eberron. Okay.
Of ships past. There are also the Ketra, which are essentially plant folk, but also kind of like the Zora from
totally not squids.
Yeah, I mean, totally not squids.
Definitely not. They look just like squid octopus people.
There's the Mothrin, who are actually literally moths. So in this world, there are so many weird different things. Oh, my favorite one, though, is the Zelkrate. So the Zelkrate aren't just one being. They are a collective of spiders living in the skin or clothes of something. They are one giant hive mind of spiders. Probably not great if you're afraid of spiders or weirded out by them. But I think that was such a very bold design choice to basically be like, okay, let's get weird with this.
Didn't bulldogs do something like that?
Maybe. Oh yeah, they did. No.
Yeah, I thought it was bulldogs.
No, it was Eclipse Phase.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was Eclipse Phase.
Yeah.
Christ world.
So that's kind of the flavor of the world. It is mix piratical ideas and sailing and shipborne exploratory worlds in a green verdant sea that's really, really weird.
Oh, and you don't do fire.
Yeah, fire bad.
You're living in trees.
Yeah, you don't do fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Fire, nope. Mm-mm.
At one point, a war broke out. Someone tried to start a fire to burn someone out, and now it burns forever. So then it creates these interesting little in-world stories of like, you don't look north, because in the north, that's where the fire is.
Conflagration is.
Yeah, that's where the fire was, and that's where the society's greatest shame is post-verdancy.
I mean, if they wanted to really get rid of it, they would have just, encouraged the awful invasive species of earthworms to go at the roots, because that eventually would kill all of the foliage. Thanks to the huge gardening conspiracy that has led us to believe that the earthworms are actually beneficial when they're awful.
You okay, Sarah?
I'm fine.
Okay.
And in this world, this game is made to be very narrative, so it's wanting you to explore this world. And the best part I think I like about this too is the mechanics get out of the way of that story. I don't know if you want to talk about mechanics, Drew, or
I want to save my mechanics comments for our deep dive.
Okay. I guess
I've got a lot of questions about them that
Okay.
I think we'll
Yeah.
dig into more.
Okay.
You're using D6s in this.
The mechanic for this is a D6 resolution mechanic. So if you roll a 6, that's a triumph, which means you get what you want. If you roll a 5 through 4, that's a conflict. You get some of what you want, but there is also a little bit that you didn't quite get, or maybe there's a little difficulty to it. And a 3 through 1 is a disaster. You do not get what you want. And you roll a pool of these. You start first with your edge, so that would be what you're good at. So, is it steering the ship or whatever. You grab 1d6 for that, and then you pick your skills, which have a rating on them, 1 through 3, or a language, 1 through 3. Those will give you up to 3 more dice, so you're up to almost 4 dice if you have all of these. And then lastly, you can get an advantage. So if the GM, and which in this case is called the Firefly, says, oh, well, I think you have an advantage to this because of something you did in the past, you can get up to 2 more dice. So the total amount of dice you're ever going to roll is 6 D6s. Basically, you're rolling to see your highest dice in there. So whatever your highest dice in that pool is, that's what you get. However, the Firefly in this case can say, well, here's the difficulty, because you're trying to do this with maybe a broken sword, or maybe the gun barrel is gummed up. I'm going to make you cut, which means you take the highest die type and take that out of your pool. So if you roll 66 and you cut 2, you take the top 2 highest dice out of that, and then the top dice left is your resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing is twists, where if you roll doubles, that's a twist. So if you succeeded, but with a twist, that means you got what you wanted. And then also maybe some little small narrative thing like, oh, hey, you notice that that's the same type of equipment your uncle used to use. So you know how they're going to try and use that equipment. So maybe that helps you later on. Or maybe a disaster twist would be like, everything goes wrong, you get hit with the damage, and also you drop your sword.
I hate that kind of one. Like, you did everything completely wrong, and you shot yourself in the foot.
Or it could also...
I hate that.
Or the twist could be, you get hit by the thing, but you hang onto your sword, but now you have a rope, you're swinging off the side of the ship, and that creates maybe a different condition you can move from, or maybe just creates different ideas for you to start your narrative from the next time you go.
Right.
In this game, they use clocks, which is very similar to Blades in the Dark mechanic, but in this one, they call them tracks. Basically, you're looking for how many successes, and that fills out your track. So if you succeed, you take 1 box off the track, and then that moves forward. So maybe your track is track down the Leviathan. So you go around the table, all right, I'm going to man the watchtower and look for the Leviathan. You roll a success, that checks off a box. You're getting closer to finding the Leviathan. And then once you fill that track up, you find the Leviathan, and then you move from there. And that's kind of the narrative elements of this story. And that's really kind of the basic mechanics. And then that plays in the loop of different scenes. So you have your exploratory scenes, you have an interaction scene, and then you have a combat scene. And those are all stitched together with montage scenes. So it's kind of like, oh, you're moving along the seas looking for the Leviathan. Here's a montage of what you do in that interim, because you could maybe be doing this for days. and then all of a sudden you're in conflict with Leviathan. Here you go, haha.
And I think the montage mechanic is a clever one to have, because that's often in a game, especially an exploration game, is you just kind of jump from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But having that montage gives you that, here's what happens, right? Here's how your characters interact. Here's a memorable thing during those travels.
So wait, people run games and don't have montages?
Yeah, there's a lot of times in games where people will be like, all right, it's going to take you 5 days to get there. Roll to see what you do for this day. Roll to see what you do this day. Do you get attacked this day? Blah, 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 blah.
Sometimes, right, it especially, like, I know one of my gaming groups, we play for 2 to 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a ton of time, sometimes you can't dedicate the time to that narrative in between and you're jumping between. But adding in something makes it more cognizant than to include those types of scenes into the story.
It does a good job of finding time for people who are like, I want to make this really interesting thing on my journey. Well, okay, here you go. Here's something for that. Or I want to go talk to the people and make them all like me. Well, here you go. That's what you can do during your montage. It creates a more cohesive story, is the way I felt. And I really like that.
Yeah, because every group has people, right? That's what they want to do, right? They want to be the crafter.
Every group does have people.
Yes.
You are correct.
Every group does have people.
But there's somebody who wants to craft things or start a business in the world, or, right, they want to interact with every NPC and have the GM come up with names for every single person that they interact with, and that's their enjoyment. So this is the avenue to get there.
Perfect time.
Looking at you, Brad.
Or I just give them names and make them like me. We've talked about the things that we've enjoyed. Maybe what are some of the challenges in running this? What are the things that you saw in this that you're like, okay, well, this might be something that could trip someone up?
I could see this being a setting if for someone who is not good at making decisions, and no hate there, I get it. I think this could lead, because there are so many options and because the setting is so in depth and full, it could lead to some decision paralysis because you have options, everything from having it be a 1 GM system with your Firefly or to be a GM-less system with the Dragonfly, to including this kind of thing, to not including this kind of thing, to including all the things. I could see that being an issue for some people.
Yeah, mine, I agree that there's too much, but for me, it's on the mechanic side. Reading through the mechanics, I struggled with understanding exactly how they worked. Listening to you explain it now, I still think I struggle with understanding how they work, so I think I would like to go through it in more detail to get a better grasp of it. But that would be my biggest hang up is the, at least my perception of complicated mechanics for the game.
Okay. And that's totally fair as well too. And I will agree with that to some degree, that this is a very narrative story and the mechanics are meant to be more of a facilitator versus a decider is the way I see it. I would say maybe something that someone would want to look at is, okay, can I run with what I have here, or do you need to absorb everything? There's so much stuff in this book, and I will 100% admit I did not read literally every single area because there's a lot of information and a lot of worlds, and I feel like there could be people that are like, oh my god, I have to read everything and know everything, and really you don't. But that's hard for some people because some people feel like they need to know everything before they can really grasp it. I would also say that this is beginner-ish friendly. I think if this is maybe something like, if you're brand new to gaming, this might be a little hard for you to run. Playing would be fairly easy, but running it would be a little bit more difficult. Whereas if you're a little more experienced gamer and you want to kind of start moving into that narrative direction, I think this is a pretty decent game for you. That would probably work out very well for you. But it does take a little bit of investment as far as grokking the world, grokking the mechanics and how it works with the world.
Is grokking an actual word?
Yeah. Like you grok something, you grasp it, it clicks with you.
Sarah's looking it up right now. I'm going to remain neutral until Sarah gives us the legal definition.
Grokking. That would be the gerund of it.
Yeah, it is an actual word. Okay. I just didn't know. Like
I would have leaned towards it's a Bradism as well.
I mean, so did I. Like I knew it was a word, and I've used the words before, and I've heard the word before, but I never knew it was an actual on the dictionary word.
Fly the W for English majors everywhere.
With that being said, it seems like those are some kind of complications we ran into. I guess, and we've talked about the things that we like about it. What's your if someone were to come up to you on the street and be like, what do you think about this game? Give the folks out there a little taste. What's your thought on this game in general?
I would say if you asked me what is this game, would you bring it to your table? I would say that I really like the design layout of the book. I like the setting and the lore that is created. However, I think the mechanics would be a stop for me, and I don't know if I'd bring it to my table today.
I would say it is a good second game for someone who starts running games. And I would say it's a good beginner role-playing game. I would say, yeah, definitely bring it to your table. It's something good to have in the collection. There's a lot of resources that are in the books, a lot of explanations in the book that are useful and can be applied to many other things. I see this more as a toolkit than just a setting, because it does go over a lot of the basics, which is why I ended up skipping many pages, because I was like, okay, yeah, I know how to do this. Okay, they changed the wording a little bit. Okay, cool. Which is fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it's definitely a good thing to have in your back pocket.
I think it's a bespoke toolkit for Wildsea in general. There are some good general GM advices, but I think you're right. It's a good toolkit. I would 100% say go buy this right now for your gaming shelf, if only to read it and enjoy the beautiful art behind it. It is such a clever world. It is so vastly different from anything out there. I mean, sure, there's pirate games, but are there weird, crazy monster mashup / sailing on the trees type game? I fail to think of something that is wilder than this as far as just interesting. I'm sure there's other like Cronenbergian games out there.
Honestly, get it just for the monsters.
Mm-hmm. As far as for someone who wants to run it, I've actually struggled to bring this to the table, because when I tell people about it, they go, "That's awesome," and then I think they can't get past that initial concept of it, of like, "That's awesome," and then I'm like, "Well, let's play it," and they're like, "Eh." It seems like it's interesting enough to folks that they want to do it, but they don't, like, they just choose something else. Like, it feels like it's always like the bridesmaid but never the bride. Right. And that's frustrating to me, because I'm like, oh, it's such a cool world. But I think if you find people who you pass it to and they read it and they go, oh, this is cool, that's the people you want to play this for. I think you get it first, read it, see what you think, and then pass it to someone, and then if they're the ones that are like, yes, that's your tribe, then you play that game with those people.
Well, we'll talk more about it as we dive deeper.
Thanks again for listening to us at Gaming Shelf Help. I'm Brad Davies.
I'm Drew Kochi.
And I'm Sarah Babe. Keep those dice rolling.